And so, just been chilling. So, had to talk about a couple of other different things. So now let me talk about this particular subject that surfaced around Friday about a potential future opponent for Canelo. Now, it looked like Canelo possibly, and I will say possibly, this is just a rumor that was put out there. And sometimes these guys put names out there to see what the reaction is going to be as they look for their next opponent. So reports came out that Canelo might be interested in fighting Carlos Adames, who stopped J Brock. Good fighter, but once again, campaigning at a lower weight class. And, the story was broke by Blue Blood. And, shout out to Blue Blood. And, I had seen some reports about this too. Rick Glazer had talked about it. So there's a distinct possibility that Canelo is at least looking at the fight for his next possible fight if it isn't with Jermall Charlo. And basically, once again, people were drawn back and like, wait a minute, man. Again, Canelo? You doing this again? Fighting another dude that at a lower weight class than you? Like, what's going on with this dude? Now, nothing's been set in stone, but this wouldn't surprise me because it's not like Canelo hasn't done this before. He has a history of doing this, either trying to control one's weight or fighting smaller guys. And as far as Charlo being taller than him and have a longer reach, it's about size. It's about weight class. That's why they call it weight class and not height class. Because if it was about height, then as I said before, Sebastian Fundora should be fighting at heavyweight, being the fact that he's like 6'6" or something like that. He should, it's called weight class. Fighting is determined, matches are determined by weight classes, not height. I think height to a certain degree should play a little bit of a factor in where you campaign at, but at the end of the day, you can't help what height you grow up to be. So I'm just saying, and he openly calls himself the Towering Inferno, but that didn't help him against Brian Mendoza because Brian Mendoza chopped him down, who it looks like he's going to be fighting Tim Tszyu. But if Canelo fights this guy, like I said, this says a lot about Canelo. Like, I've been very critical of Canelo on basically his opponent selections. And a lot of times Canelo fans think that you don't have the right to critique him. Now, as long as you praise him, it's all good. And I'm just going to go there. They think, in particularly, like I said, us black guys, us black content creators, we don't have the right to critique Canelo unless it's something good about him. Sorry, doesn't work that way with me. And yeah, I said it. For people that say, hey, well, you're playing the race card, ain't no damn race card. I'm just telling the truth because I see this on a regular basis. Now, as long as I criticize the brothers, and not the others, then people like my content. But I've been seeing this pattern with Canelo for years. Once again, he chose to fight Charlo, a fight that nobody asked for. And once again, who's asking for this fight? And as far as the other Charlo brother go, who's asking for that fight? And I just got to say to Jermall, that's real weak what you did, man. You coming off saying that you learned your lesson and you're not that same person. But here you are threatening Gilly the Kid and all this kind of stuff and saying you gonna knock Caleb Plant out. Well, at the end of the day, the person you should be mad at is Caleb Plant because you the one that sat up there and let Caleb Plant slap the taste out your mouth. Everybody saw it and you didn't do nothing. But yet, once again, here you are coming at another black man. And this is why I don't take those dudes serious. And like I said before, and I'm going to say this once again, like I had to make it very clear to another content creator, listen, I don't be going around threatening people. At the end of the day, I'll defend myself if somebody pull up on me. Like one dude was insinuating that he gonna pull up on me. That'll be a bad idea for you. Not gonna turn out the way you think it's gonna turn out, but at the end of the day, I'm ready. Stay ready, always ready. Can't be going around threatening people. And that's just real talk. I don't know what it is about the Charlo brothers and this urge that they feel like they always have to like try to spaz out and talk all that big boy stuff when it pertains to brothers, but then all of a sudden they get timid when it comes to others. Yet Jamel sitting up in there praising Canelo, washing his dirty draws and all this stuff, and it was an honor. Listen, man, I don't give a damn about no honor, none of that stuff. It ain't no honor. It's a paycheck, and you go in there to win. He didn't go in there to win. He let everybody down. He talking about he did it for the culture and all this kind of, you do it for, well, I don't know what culture you referred to, but you, if it's the culture that everybody think you talking about, that was shameful, and we don't believe you. Once again, say what you want to say about Deontay Wilder. He fought like a man in all 3 fights versus Tyson Fury. He went out on the shield, whether he suffered 2 back-to-back losses, but he did the best he could. He gave Tyson Fury all he can handle. Dropped him twice in the in the third fight, in the second and final fight of the trilogy. And he gained a lot of respect from people because he went out on the shield. What Jamel didn't even try. Now it's up for debate how much he got paid for the fight or whatever the case may be, but at the end of the day, it was a shameful performance. It was a shameful performance, and he disgraced himself. And that's just real talk. But anyway, getting back to Canelo, I've said this about Canelo. At the end of the day, Canelo needs to give us a legitimate reason why he won't fight David Benavidez. I just got through looking at David Benavidez versus Caleb Plant, a guy that Canelo, defeated to win, the final belt and become undisputed. And I understand why Canelo is hesitant to get in the ring with David Benavidez. Everybody keeps talking about, well, Charlo was running and all this kind of stuff. And that's, that's fine. And they sort of was hinting the same thing about Caleb Plant. Okay, fine. Well, wouldn't you want somebody like David Benavidez that's going to come straight forward? That's going to come straight to you? But see, the thing is with Canelo, why I know that David Benavidez style is going to bother him and give him tremendous problems, because David Benavidez, his activity, he can push Canelo forward. We already know Canelo can't fight going backwards. And then David Benavidez' jab is going to give Canelo problems. So when Canelo is trying to set up the hook, David Benavidez can attack Canelo to the body. He can go downstairs with his own body attack and open up Canelo to get off those combinations. So David Benavidez' style is going to be a nightmare for Canelo. Now, Canelo could easily land something and put David Benavidez lights out. But the thing is, every time they ask him about David Benavidez, he gets quiet. He gets angry. My thing is, I want to hear Canelo flat out say, I'm going to fight David Benavidez and I'm going to beat him. And then for people to sit up there and be impressed by Canelo fighting somebody like Charlo, like I said, this fight would have had a lot of interest had it happened like 10 years ago when they were both at 154, when Canelo was making up his weight classes between 150 and 155. Would have been a great fight, would have been an interesting fight. But then, as you know, Jamel stayed at 154. Canelo went up all the way up to light heavyweight, considered moving up to cruiserweight. So once again, like I said before, the Canelo stands are trying to justify this fight. But I'm not finna. I said before that I didn't like this fight. I said before, who asked for this fight? So if he chooses to fight Carlos Adonis, that's going to just tell you everything you need to. Well, I've been saying this about Canelo. Canelo has never went after the best guy in any division. He's went at the safest guy that he felt was complementary to his style. At the end of the day, if you look at the Canelo Caleb Plant fight, and if you really want to be truthful, if you really want to tell the truth about that fight, Canelo who was losing that fight. Now, I know the judges and whatnot, had Canelo ahead in that fight, and I have to call cap on that. I thought Caleb Plant was outboxing Canelo, but he gassed out like you see him doing in quite a few of his fights. He started to gas out versus David Benavidez. And to be honest with you, I was more impressed with David Benavidez' skill set versus Caleb Plant. And I know people ain't giving him credit, but he was exorbitant and he was slipping a lot of those shots and blocking a lot of Caleb Plant shots. Now it looked good that Caleb Plant was landing a lot of elbow punches and a lot of, arm punches. But David Benavidez, if you look at his face after the fight, he really didn't get nailed. He was nailing Caleb Plant. But if you look at who was doing most damage, it was clearly David Benavidez. And then, not to mention, they fought in a ring that was like the size of they fought in a ring that was like the size of a suite at, basically at the MGM Grand on the top floor. So you got to take all that into consideration. They fought in a specially sanctioned, ring that they had to get special clearance to get that ring sanctioned, for that fight. It is just something that bothers Canelo about David Benavidez. He is hesitant to fight this dude. And I'm not saying that Canelo can't beat him. There's always hesitation going into any fight. You should always be worried about, can you beat a dude? But it is just something when it pertains to David Benavidez that Canelo just don't like. And I see why. And I understand watching David Benavidez' skill set. I just think his high volume punching is going to bother Canelo, and Canelo is not going to be able to slip and get out of the way of a lot of those punches. Like I say, styles make fights. And I was just laughing, at the dude when I was like on World Combat Sports channel, and we was, of course I was making valid points on why David Benavidez could beat Canelo. And of course the dude tried to talk over me, which I think is really weak. When I said, well, most people thought that Caleb Plant, well, the judges well, it doesn't matter what the judges, because how many times have we agreed with judges? All right. And say we got to respect the judges. Okay, if that's the case, then why is y'all still crying about what, the judges and Lomachenko versus Devin Haney? The judges thought that Devin Haney won the fight, which I thought Devin Haney won the fight. But most people, that was, a lot of people think Lomachenko won the fight. I don't think Lomachenko won the fight, but there you have it. A lot of people that told the truth, insiders and a lot of, different boxing pundits, just told the truth. They thought Caleb Plant was doing exceptionally well against Canelo. And he was outboxing Canelo, and, he gassed out. Canelo caught him, and Canelo ended up winning the fight. Now, keep in mind, they didn't fight no metamorphosis ring, basically Caleb Plant versus Canelo. They ain't fight no metamorphosis ring like what he asked for versus David Benavidez. So there you have it. But just looking at David Benavidez, I understand why Canelo is hesitant to get in the ring with him. And even if Canelo squeaks out a victory, it may be an extremely controversial victory. We all know Canelo has been hesitant to fight the guys like Demetrius Andrade. There's a rumor also going around that if Demetrius Andrade beats David Benavidez, that Canelo is going to vacate one of the belts. But then there's no guarantee that he's going to fight David Benavidez, because we've been asking for this fight for years. When he had a chance to fight David Benavidez, when David Benavidez had the belt, he elected not to make the fight. Now, when David Benavidez was stripped of the belt, then all of a sudden Canelo decides, okay, I want a chance to fight for the belt. This is factual. This is factual. And I'm just looking at Canelo's history, and this is what he does. You look at his opponent selection. He's always been careful and calculated on who he fought. But then when he beats these dudes, then all of a sudden it's this love affair. Canelo is the greatest thing since the round wheel, the greatest thing since sliced bread or Swiss cheese. And then you like, okay, well, he was supposed to beat a dude like that. But yet we are the same people who have something to say when it pertains to Floyd Mayweather. And this is why I'm always on the fence when it comes to the whole Floyd Mayweather and his opponent selection. But then you look at Canelo, and Canelo is not fighting world beaters. That's factual. Hasn't had a stoppage in his last 4 fights. I mean, John Ryder was put in there for Canelo to stop, and Canelo couldn't get him out of there. Couldn't stop Charlo, even though the cards were extremely, in Canelo's favorite. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Extremely in his favorite. If it was a rigged, slot machine, I mean, it was set up for Canelo basically to hit the jackpot, and he didn't. But then people are telling some of us we need to give Canelo credit for that. Oh, we're hating. Like I said, people love to come with a different type of scenario when it comes to certain fighters. Why is it that if I criticize Canelo for basically fighting a dude that nobody asked him to fight, and people really were scratching their head asking where did this fight come from? At the end of the day, whether Jamel wasn't supposed to get the fight with Canelo, and it was supposed to be Jamal. Well, once again, did Jamal really make any kind of sense? Can we be truthful about that? Did Jamal make any kind of sense? No. Many of us thought if Canelo was going to continue to campaign at 168, well, he was going to fight another guy at 168. We would have been okay with David Morrell. We would have been okay with that. But then he comes out of nowhere and brings up a guy from 154 pounds, 2 weight classes, and then you get the results that you get. And unlike me, I wasn't pulling no punches. I didn't think Charlo remotely had any chance of winning that fight based off the fact that he had to go up 2 weight classes, and then he had been out of the ring for well over a year. And he was an overwhelming favorite. So how could anybody think that Charlo had any chance of winning that fight? Be logical. And logic comes into play when it comes to having these type of discussions. Like I said, I'm not here to be your best friend, and I'm not here to say what you want to say and you want me to say and massage your ego and stroke Canelo's ego. Because if Canelo fights Carlos Adames, that'll be an extremely weak move, and he should be ripped to shreds for that. But you have this thing where people are afraid to criticize Canelo, or they just don't want to because they worried about backlash. I'm not worried about no damn backlash. People gonna get mad no matter what, and don't try to come with the comparison. Well, so-and-so, we talked about Canelo, not talked about anybody else. And like I said before, this would be a very questionable move if Canelo was to entertain a fight like this. Now, keep in mind, Carlos Adames tweeted as if there was something to this. He basically said if he got the contract, he said he was game, and he said he'll do better than what Charlo did, which basically he called Charlo a runner. Well, like I said before, we'll just have to see. I hope this isn't true about Canelo, but if Canelo takes a fight like this, I mean, good grief. Good grief. Can't get out of it. And that's just real talk. So there you have it. It's your boy Town. I'm out.